Scottish Salmon Fishing Podcast is brought to you by Salmon Fishing Holidays Scotland.
Welcome to the Scottish Salmon Fishing Podcast. My name's Sandy.
I'm Andy.
And this week we are going to be talking about spey casting. So I think fly fishing in the sport is fly fishing for salmon is getting more and more popular. And everyone wants to be able to spey cast and want to be able to cast long distances. I mean, you must see, as a gilly Andy, many people, more and more people wanting to fly fish.
That can't cast long distances.
Absolutely. So tell us a bit about the secrets behind, spey casting and casting long distances.
The secrets behind casting long, well, you need to know what you're doing for the start. You hear people that know about it apparently saying that it's all about timing, but it's not just about timing, it's timing and technique, isn't it? It's putting all the main points of your spey cast together. Each one leads on to the other and makes the whole thing work. Yes, you can rescue if you don't get such a good anchor point and it's too far out to the front or it's too far back. If you've got some knowledge and experience, you can rescue each cast from a little misdemeanor at the early part of the cast. But if you're really looking for, I mean, I like going for distance. That's obviously when we discussed the other day. When you have the other week, is when you have a big river, you don't need the distance, but sometimes you just can't help just stretching your arms and going for it.
Of course,
It's awesome. It's just a fantastic thing. Whether you're doing single, I'm a single spey personally. It's what I enjoy doing mostly. A lot of guys start off with the Circle C and various other things like that, but the single spey for me is the least splashy. It's the one that looks best
makes least disturbance as well.
And I think you get more distance with a single spey. Again, it's not always about the distance, but for me, it is.
I mean, personally, I think people try and make it a myth around spey casting about this is this amazing art, and people try and overcomplicate things. I think if you start right from the start, I think you need to think about a rod or a fly rod and a fly line. Now, as anglers, as human beings, we're all different shapes, we're all different heights, and you don't need to spend lots and lots of money on an expensive fly rod and an expensive fly line. But I think that the most important thing is that the fly rod and the fly line work in harmony together.
That's true, but you've got to remember that not everybody needs an expensive car, but they go and buy an expensive car because they've got the money to do so. They like. I've been there myself. I've wanted the fancy, the big name rods, the big name reels, but at the end of the day, I'll use the cheapest stuff now, just because as long as it casts, it doesn't matter what name is on it.
And I think, I'm a firm believer, and you'll probably agree with me, Andy, as well, is that I don't think you get a bad rod nowadays. I think that probably the more expensive brands and the more expensive rods maybe last that bit longer, but if you get the marriage to work, which is the marriage between the fly rod and the fly line,
that's key.
And then that helps so much. And sometimes I think the fly line's actually more important than the rod itself. I don't know what you think.
I'd probably say, well, of course it is. I think it is nowadays, especially like you say, you don't get a bad rod, but you put some of these modern lines. I'm going to name drop now. If you put a Rio Scandi Versa tip on an old Sage rod, it's going to cast like a dream. You're going to be like, Jesus, why was this line not around when I first started salmon fishing? It was big spey lines I was getting told, 72 foot heads, and honestly I nearly put the rod over my knee a few times, and then I look at what there is nowadays, Scandi Versa tips, AFSs, any of the short, the Rio, the Airflow Rage and all that, they're just so much easier to cast. And yes, you'll get the traditionalists and the people that have been on the river a lot longer than me, because they'll be out there saying that is the fact that you should be using a spey line. Well, when you guys started off using spey lines, the guys that were using double tapers were going, but you should be using double tapers. It's just a natural progression. I love using the spey line. It's my favourite line to use, but I'll use a shooting head 90% of the time because it's windy, or because I need to get depth, or I need to get various other things.
I mean, personally, I think when it comes to spey casting, I think there's a role for both lines in different situations. The spey line. I mean, we all want to cast with a spey line. I mean, it looks like an art form when you're using that. And I mean, I was brought up using a spey line. But again, to be able to use a spey line, often you need to have a lot of clearance behind you to be able to form that sort of perfect D loop. Now, in some pools that you're fishing, you may not be able to have access behind you for that clearance. So it may be you're meaning to make a short D, and that's where you're sort of shooting headlines come into their own, really,
Yeah.
and especially I suppose on the sort of smaller rivers, they come into their own.
You do, yeah. Well, some places you don't have the luxury of a huge D loop behind you, and the D loop is the essence of the cast.
What makes you so? You said that like the D loop is the essence of your cast. So I mean, what do you mean by that?
Because, well, the D loop is created by a high rod and a good anchor point. So it is the essence of the cast in that you have a big. I'm waving my hands about here like looking at the microphone. But when you have the high rod and the anchor point, you have a big D loop, and the D loop is what loads the rod, and the rod is bent backwards from the tip before you power forward with the bottom hand. So top and bottom hand.
Yeah, and I think also what some newcomers to the sport get preoccupied with is trying to force it using a lot of power, and I think and we're all guilty of that because
Power's in the rod.
Yeah, and I think I think we're like diverting a little bit here but you'll get me where I'm coming from here, Andy. People go on about why do women that fish? There are not many women that fly fish, but why do they catch so many fish? And I think as guys, we are preoccupied with being able to wade the deepest, cast the furthest, and cover as much water as possible. Whereas women generally, they're quite happy taking their time through a pool, messing about. I'll make sure that Sam doesn't hear that. But no, I think women take their time. They're quite happy just casting the distance that they're comfortable with, and they catch fish.
Well, we've already said that a lot of the fish are in the margins anyway, so
true.
That's probably, it's the same old. That I want to beast the line out as far as I can, and you don't need to. We've discussed that, but sometimes it's nice just to do that. If you can see fish moving away, if you can cast short and you can cast long, you're going to catch more fish than the person that can only cast short. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because you can see fish on the other side of the pool or the other side of the river or whatever, that the guy who can only cast 20 yards isn't going to cover the same fish that are 40 yards away, and the guy that's a 40-yard caster will catch these fish.
So going back to rods,
They'll cover these fish.
Yeah, sorry. So going back to rods, so all salmon rods have a line rating. Now, me personally, we're all different. I would rather either go with the line rating on the rod, which is actually refers to the weight of the line that you're going to use with the rod, or maybe slightly overload it. What's your thoughts on that? To get that marriage made in heaven between the rod and the rod and the line.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't really just, unless you spoke to somebody who has, say, a certain rod, who uses a certain line on it and has tried other certain lines on it, but this is the line that works on that rod. You listen to the people that know, i.e. your gilly or your friend who maybe has done it for a lot longer than you have. But the best thing to do is try. You don't buy a car without test driving it, do you? You shouldn't really buy a rod and a line without having test casted it, in my opinion. Sometimes it's not always possible to do that. But if you have access to a beat and a gilly who's got gear and who's friendly enough like yourself, ask them.
I think that's debatable, but
yeah, well, yes. You can ask them if they have a certain type of rod, if they know anybody, because we get to try a lot of rods here, not because people give us it, but because we have so many anglers coming through the door that you see most of the rods, whether they're brand new on the market, whether they were on the market 70 years ago, and you still get guys that use all those rods, which are fine with modern lines, like I said. But try before you buy is really the thing. Because I get guys that come up here, and I've done it myself. They turn up with a 60 quid 3-piece 15-foot rod, and they've got a 20 quid line that they've bought from some company just before the borders, and it just doesn't work. And then you put on a line. I mean, like I said, most rods can cast a line. It's a comfort. Some rods are so blooming stiff that you can't enjoy using them, But if you don't know any better, you don't suppose it really makes any difference. But if you've got a big poker of a rod, for example, and it's a rated 10 weight, I'd put an 11 weight Scandi Versi tip on and it'll bang the line out.
Absolutely.
But it's just not as enjoyable, less forgiving than a softer rod.
No, absolutely. And what about then, so we've talked about the reel, we've talked about the rod and the line. People go on and on about balance. So you've got the right rod, you've got the right line. And I think a lot of people, I mean, personally, I believe that, you know, as long as, if you're fishing for salmon, especially on the Tay, but anywhere in Scotland, as long as you've got a reel which has got a good, reliable drag system and can hold adequate amount of backing, that's all you need. But for many anglers, it's pride of ownership, what it looks like. What's your thoughts about the reel balancing the rod and line?
The balance, it's not something I don't like a heavy reel, to be honest with you. I really don't. I like an outfit that's light. It's more enjoyable when you're playing a fish. But like you just said, for me it's about a good drag. When I first started, people would say, or I would even say, it's just a line holder. But it's not just a line holder. And I still know guys that are very, very experienced anglers, I'll not name names, and they reckon they've never lost a fish using an old Bewlight style.
I remember those reels.
Yeah, I've got them, and I've bought them, and they're nice and noisy and all that. But at the end of the day, the arbour's not big, so if a fish does come towards you quickly, line retrieval's a nightmare. I've been there. I've had that issue. Sometimes you'll have a fish that just screams off down the river. Yes, you can use your palm, but how many people have you spoke to that's broken a thumb or damaged their thumb badly because they put their palm on the reel, the thumb's got in the road, and their next thing they're tear in their eye because their thumbs and bits, and then you can't enjoy playing the fish of a lifetime with a broken thumb, can you? So for me, you don't even have to spend a lot of money. Rio would do that. Rio Deep, what is that, 80 quid? And the drag on it's perfectly sufficient. Alright, you might not handle a tarpon, but nobody said you were going to catch a tarpon on a 15-foot fly rod.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think, you know, if it was like, you know, in the 1960s or the 1970s when there was 30, 40 pound salmon about, if you lose a fish of a lifetime, then
another one round
the corner. I mean, how gutted would you feel? How gutted would you feel if you lost that big fish simply because, you know, that fish of a lifetime, that fish that is well hooked, a big springer, and you've lost it because A, the drag wasn't reliable, or B, because the reel did not have enough backing capacity.
Or you didn't break your
break your thumb, you know. and so, I mean, I suppose then in terms of balance, then all three of them have to work together. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, you're going about balance. I just don't like heavy reels. I know some guys that do. It's all preference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just personal preference. But like you said, a reel that holds a lot of backing, decent backing as well, not some £20 stuff, some proper backing that's stronger than your leader.
What sort of backing? Well, gel spun backing?
No. When I go to Norway, and all my reels are 300 yards plus of £60 Power Pro.
Okay.
Just because I know that is not. It's all about taking potential disasters out of the equation.
Correct. I agree with you totally. Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is hook the fish of a lifetime. It's taken off down the river. You've got a good drag. You've got a good reel. You're not going to break your thumb because the drag's doing the business for you. You look at the reel and go, shit, I've only got 100 yards of backing on this. Well, if you lose it, you deserve to lose it.
Yeah,
frankly.
And that's avoidable.
To put 300 yards of backing on your reel takes 20 minutes. It's a one-time thing. Do it, and then that's that out of the equation.
Yeah.
You know? Anything, if the fish gets lost out with that, well, it's something else that's happened. Like, you know, whether it's nicked the line on a stone, or whether it's just pulled, or whether you've had the drag too tight.
And I mean, you know, it makes you wonder. I mean, the modern technology, we were talking about fly casting today, and and spey casting especially, but the modern technology nowadays we have. I mean, it's made spey casting so much easier. You know, so we can all cover larger expanses of water with ease. And there's so many fewer fish about nowadays, so it makes you wonder, if you had this sort of technology 30, 40 years ago, how many more fish you would catch, doesn't it?
We'd have wiped out the stocks a little bit quicker than we did.
Absolutely. but it just makes you wonder. I mean, I think the days of the 18-foot rods that were used, you know, they were commonly used in the Tay, weren't they? The big 18-foot fly rods and the big sort of Bewlight reels and, you know, weight forward lines. They have sort of gone now, and because rods are becoming more powerful and people are being able to match the right line and rod together, is making spey casting easier.
Well, it's back, like you said, the line's probably the most important thing. Like a lot of these guys who fish certain bottom end of the Tay, I think a lot of them are stepping away from the 18-foot stuff. They're using, like you said, 15-foot rods, but they're messing with the line combos, and they're cutting lines and adding bits here and adding bits there. And again, there's one or two guys I know that do just that, you know, and they're casting miles.
Big distance. It's funny you say about the length of rods, because I think often it's a bit like cars as technology moves along. So, you know, years and years ago, you'd have, especially when it comes to like American cars, you'd have the big sort of 5 litre V6 that would give out, you know, 180, 200 brake horsepower. And as time has passed on, as time has moved on, and technology has moved on, you're getting smaller and smaller engines, which are given, just as much power. And I think that's very similar to fly rods. I mean, years ago it used to be the 18-foot rods that are popular, and then it was the 16-foot rods, and now, with technology moving on, different materials that fly rods are made from, you can cast just as far with either a 14 or a 15-foot rod.
Down to manufacturing process and design, that's the size of it. Yeah, but like anything, it's just progress, moving forward, isn't it? Yeah. Nobody's going to use a silk line anymore because there's so much better. You're not going to drive an old Cortina when you could be driving a Ford Focus ST. Well, you might, because there's nostalgia. But I do get guys, Scandinavians in particular seem to be all about the nostalgia. Not so much the lines, but with the flies, big single irons and stuff. But,
and they work. They still work. I mean, and I suppose that's a debate for another day. When it comes to the flies. But I mean, it's technology, innit? It's moving so far forward, especially when it comes to Spey casting. I think it just makes you wonder in 20 years' time.
Where will it be in 20 years' time? How far can they go from what they already have? It's hard to. It's hard to imagine. But anyway.
So to someone new into salmon fishing that wants to fly fish and wants a good sort of rod, reel and line combo, just a few tips, not mentioning any brands, what would you recommend? They go to a tackle shop, maybe for Christmas coming up, what would you recommend they do before they, if they don't have the access, because to try a rod on a river or what would you recommend? Take some advice from other people, or
advice. I mean, again, it's have time on the. I've got rods that cost no more than £130, with a line that costs the same and a reel that costs a little bit less. I mean, for under £400, you can have a cracking outfit. You can have an outfit that'll do you for a good few seasons, and then when you become a competent caster, and you think to yourself, right, I want to get away from the old budget lines, I want to step up to something a little bit more top end, then's the time to do it. Don't go away out and buy top end stuff straight away, because you might not like the sport.
Yeah,
granted, if you hook a fish on the first day out, you're going to love the sport. There's no two ways about that. But some people get frustrated with their casting, but there's no need to. Just listen to whoever's teaching you, take your time, watch YouTube videos. I mean, I enjoy teaching people to cast, and prefer if they've got a little bit of knowledge, to be fair.
What do you enjoy about it?
I just like to see people their casting getting better, their casting getting further, and the look on their face when you give them certain outfits and they go, my God, what kind of, this is amazing, or whatever, look at my casting's improved so much since you showed me this, or done that. I mean, I get certain casting instructors that turn up here and I watch and I listen to what they say, and then the next day I can't wait to get back out and try the pointers they've given me. It's kind of, I've got to a point in my casting now where I feel that I am a good caster. I wouldn't have said it 2 years ago, I'd have said I was an adequate caster, but now I think I'm a good caster now. Finally got there. And it took, and I'm on the river every day for the last 7 years virtually. Not with a flyer on my hand all the time, of course, because you can't, you're working. But for people some people learn quicker than others as well, of course, but for people to come fishing twice a year and expect within 2 years to be competent,
it's difficult,
casters,
isn't it?
No chance.
I mean, I think that's also the secret behind casting as well, is you have to be able to do it regularly. It's a lot about muscle memory, and if someone, not even 2 days, Andy, but if someone comes for 6 days, a week every year, 6 days is not enough
fill
a
in
year.
That gap between the 6 days, like do a bit more.
Absolutely, and I actually get where you're coming from when you're saying you enjoy teaching people how to cast and the satisfaction you get. I know we get a number of clients from all over the world coming to Scotland to salmon fish, and many of them have not fly fished. I mean, most of them have not, Spey casted before. A lot of our clients come from America and they're used to the shorter single-handed rods, and you take them out and you teach them how to cast, and the satisfaction you get from seeing them making a nice Spey cast and then catch a fish. I mean, nothing really beats that, does it?
No.
Nothing beats that.
When I first started here in 2012 was my first season, I remember chatting to my late friend Ian Hendry, and I said, Ian, I just want to become, I can't wait, I knew it would happen at some point, I can't wait to become a decent Spey caster. And alright, I was within a couple of years I was decent, but I've only just in the last couple of years felt like I'm good. I can chuck a long line and I can do it nicely and properly. The bottom hand is the key. There's so many elements to the cast that are so important.
And finally, just to round this off, I mean, your sort of top tips, maybe top 3 tips when you're Spey casting for a novice. They've got the outfit,
or listen to the people that are
just generally.
Right, so you've bought the outfit. You need to. You can't just go. I'm kind of self-taught, apart from a few pointers from instructors or people that that bring people here to teach them how to cast and listen, watch and listen. That's the key, is watch and listen. Watch YouTube videos, just...
It's a wealth of knowledge out there.
But yeah, the most important thing really is to get out on the water or on the grass with a bit of wool on the end of the nylon. Don't ever try and cast a fly line just with the plastic of the fly line. You must put a bit of nylon and just fish with the same things you would fish in the river, apart from the fly. Put a bit of wool on the end.
Why is that? Just for people
What's that?
Why would you? Why
Put
can
a
you
bit
not
of wool
just
in it,
put-
because if you're casting and you go forward before the anchor point stopped, you'll get that old
crack?
the whip. There's the lion some type of effect. Is the crack of the whip, and that'll split the line. But if you've got a bit of wool on the end, it'll soak all that up, and you won't damage your line.
So try so do a bit of practice beforehand.
Yes, and just take your time. Don't try and dog it. Use both hands. The top and bottom.
Yeah.
Opposing forces. Top hand pushing away, bottom hand pulling in. That's the key. Make the rod work as a big spring. The rod's not a lever or a hammer. It's a spring.
Yeah.
When I say hammer, I mean just too much top hand. You're just hitting a nail in all the time. Because if you're using two hands and you stop the rod at a high point, you'll be amazed how that line just flies at the end of the rod, and it'll open up a whole new perception on how you're casting. Wrong words, but it'll open up a whole new dimension to your casting, and you'll suddenly think, Christ, I can't wait to get on the water and do this. I mean, I've been there myself, and I'm. That's the key.
Yeah, I suppose as well.
Time, practice.
Yeah, I suppose as well. It's like the golfer. A keen golfer.
You're never become a good golfer if you just stay in the house and watch TV.
But also, it's like a golfer with his new driver and hits a 300 absolutely, but a 340 yard drive down the first, right down the middle, and I suppose it's just like that when the satisfaction you get when you make the perfect spey cast, with the rod, and it must be very, very similar.
Well, you can get a nice club and a nice golf ball, but all you'll do is just hit the ball further into the rough than straight up the fairway. Absolutely. And I suppose we've talked about distance, and we all know it's not just about distance when it comes to salmon fishing. I'm terrible for saying. I think on a river the size of the Tay, and don't be daunted by it, because like Sandy said, you've got a river within a river, and you can work on that. But I feel that when you've got the right height and the right conditions, if you cast a long line, and at the end of the day, it's like golf. If you want to be a good golfer, you want to hit a ball as far up the fairway and as straight as you can up the fairway, close up the pin. It's like, well, with the fly fishing, it's the same. If you can start off short, but over time you're going to hope to get further and further and further. And it's a feel-good thing as well. You're not here just to catch fish. You're here to enjoy your day.
Absolutely.
And if you enjoy your casting, that's a major factor to your day.
Absolutely.
I get people say, well, I haven't caught anything, but I've thoroughly enjoyed casting for the day. It's great fun. And also, is you're casting further, you're covering more fish in effect, aren't you? So,
of course you are. And the other thing as well is that you just touched on the most important thing and why we do this sport. It's all about enjoying your day.
It is.
We hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Scottish Salmon Fishing Podcast. In the next edition, we have an exclusive interview with the head gillie of the Thirster River, Mr. George Doole. George will be giving us a useful insight into what it is like to salmon fish in one of Scotland's most prolific salmon rivers. He also has some handy hints and tips when it comes to salmon fishing, which you can use next time you're on the riverbank. We hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we look forward to having your company once again soon.
The Scottish Salmon Fishing Podcast is brought to you by Salmon Fishing Holidays Scotland.